Hello, 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 and welcome to the show with Wrestling with Entertainment, the only audio experience on the wrestling stage that trusts you tries to entertain all your favorite wrestlers every Tuesday and Wednesday, previewing and reviewing the latest shows from WWE, AEW, New Japan, and everything in between every Saturday on YouTube and Castbox, sponsored by Rogue Energy and Player One Coffee. I'm, of course, your host, that guy, James J., alongside the leader of Squad Squad, Kaliko Ross.
I mean, doing a women's match on International Women's Day? We are on a roll here. Look at us. Whoop, whoop.
and
Look at us.
and the American Scooter Dust.
Hey, hey!
And it's a great day for wrestling, because we are wrestling with our top 10 women's matches of all time. Um, this kind of really came into perspective to me when we were doing our Royal Rumble review, where we kind of said like the women's Royal Rumble match was a 5-star match, and the women don't necessarily get that spotlight all the time, and it really made me wonder what are some all-time great female matches. I didn't necessarily and think that we were going to do this list for women's month, but here we are, being on topic for once in our lives.
Big topic on the pulse of the world society there, James.
Yes, we are. So
Look at us. And
I will start us out, and my first match. It may be a low key match, maybe not remembered by many. Um, but it is indeed Beth Phoenix versus Candice Michelle from Unforgiven 2007. I don't think anybody, remembers Candice Michelle's title reign all that much. But, it was after the whole Trish and Lita saga. And she really put her heart and soul into that title run to make what she did matter. And nobody was a better opponent for her than Beth Phoenix. She made Beth Phoenix look like $1 million, and Beth in return did the same to her. It's only like a 7-minute match, but they did what they needed to do, and I just remember it being a very memorable match for myself at that time, because nobody, you never seen anybody like Beth Phoenix at that time, um, and it kind of ended unexpectedly with the champion coming on top. Um, my opinion, just great storytelling, um, storytelling, storytelling at its finest.
Uh, was this the uh, No Mercy 2007 or
Unforgiven.
their 2003 one? Unforgiven.
Yeah.
Okay. All
Um,
right. Yeah.
Kaliko,
That was a
number
hot
10.
feud.
Oh, what was you saying, Kaliko?
oof.
No, I'm saying that was a hot feud.
Yes. Kaliko, number 10.
Mm, my number 10 was, it is, it was hard. So I picked Lita versus Trish Stratus, Unforgiven 2006.
Ooh, okay.
And and the reason I picked it because that was the first time I've ever seen a women's retirement match, like someone a women's retirement match in the sense that they gave it that much prominence in her hometown, nonetheless, against Lido, in which they had their own. It was the perfect opponent for the perfect retirement match for Trish. which to me, that is why to me it's number 10. And it was the perfect match in the perfect hometown with the perfect person. And I've never seen them put. Think about it. When you think of women's wrestling, we've had a lot, but you never seen one that had a retirement match. I think Trish was the only one that I could think of that ever had one.
Well, Lita did retire the next month, even though it didn't necessarily go her way.
Right, but I'm just saying, like in a pay-per-view setting,
Right.
this is pretty much like Sting having his retirement match. You see what I'm saying?
Hey, as long as it wasn't Ric Flair's last match, it's okay with me.
Jesus Christ. You're gonna just hold that over everybody.
Alright, Scooter.
All right. My number 10. I went back and forth on a lot of these, but we'll do something. Number 10 will be something a little bit more recent. Becky Lynch, Tiffany Stratton, Extreme Rules, No Mercy 2023.
Okay.
It was not only telling the story of one of the few missing parts, the missing accolades of Becky's career, but this match, to me, single-handedly proved that Stratton had what it takes to hang with the main roster, which is why she is there now. I think that sums it up. I don't think I need to explain anything else further.
Alright. Well, that brings me to my number 9. This match kinda it kind of feels like it's in a capsule, like it never really happened to begin with. But if you
Oh
look it up,
no.
then you know that it actually did. And that is Lita versus China from Judgment Day 2001. Um,
Oh man. The S.A. Rios Eddie Guerrero feud.
yeah. So I mean, you like what? Lita wrestled China? It's gotta be good, and it was. It could have been better, and it makes you kind of think, man, what if they had like a proper feud? Because China would be out like a couple months afterwards. But the match itself was great. I mean, Lita at that time was on another level than a lot of the other girls. China was in her own stratosphere, and to see those two things collide, um, it just sparked magic. And it does make you think again, man, what if there were more matches, if there was a proper feud. um and for all of those reasons, that's why it's my number 9. Kaliko.
Hmm, man. Uh, so what? Where I'm at 9. So number 9, I kind of went back. Alondra Blaze versus Bull Nakano SummerSlam.
Ah, God.
Honestly, they didn't get a lot of time, but the time that they had, it showed. And this was right around the time where this is young me, I had just noticed Miss Texas. So I'm looking at them two, and then I'm looking at Miss Texas and Memphis, and I was like, man, that girl, I was like, man, you know what? I think she could do it. She could be up there. And sure enough, she did, Miss Jacqueline. But I think this match in itself took it seriously as women's wrestling because keep in mind WWF in the 80s and even then they didn't really take it as serious as they should. And this was a gym match lost in that period of hopelessness or mediocrity of how the women wrestlers were treated. So yeah, that's this banger. Number 9. Alondra Blaze, Bull Nakano, SummerSlam.
Scoodle?
Alright, so much men would say, boom, naka, 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 no. Alright. You want to go back? Let's go back. Let's go back to August 22nd, 1985. For the WWWA World Championship in All Japan Wrestling. Jaguar Yokota versus Lioness Asuka.
Not the Oscar we know.
This is the... No, not the Asuka we know. Lioness Asuka. Which might have been Asuka at the time, but no. This is mid-80s. Women's wrestling is almost non-existent to the point where you either have to go looking for it or you have to settle for what the WWE, WWF gave you. This match in particular stood out for a number of reasons, and the actual match, which was very good. It's one of the best matches, I think, not just in women's wrestling, not just in Japanese wrestling, but in professional wrestling in general. And Lioness Asuka and Jaguar Yokota were treated like heroines. They were appreciated. And that's the one thing Japan was known for, and is still known for, really. Showing appreciation for their talent. And the fans know it too. Because after this match happens and it ends, there's confetti and streamers and everything like just going down all over the ring. And it was the only 5-star women's match and I think it was the only 5-star women's match for there was you know what? Yep, that's it. This was the first 5-star women's match on record. So, go look. I recommend go dive down through that rabbit hole. You're gonna find some rare gems down there.
And that's the reason it's your number 9.
Yes, that is the reason it is my number 9.
Okay. Well, that brings me to my number 8, we got War Games. Team Ripley versus Team
What?
Baszler. Got Rhea Ripley, Candice LeRae, Tegan Knox, and Dakota Kai versus Shayna Baszler, Bianca Belair, Io Shirai, and Kay Lee Ray. This was from NXT Takeover War Games 2019. You know, I'm being nice by including Tegan Knox and Dakota Kai, considering that they never actually entered the match. This was Rhea Ripley versus The World, and Rhea Ripley won. I don't think there was ever a match where one woman was shown so strongly, or in a, I don't even think China got pushed to that magnitude as Rhea did in this match. It had
Um,
it had drama. It had great storytelling. Dakota turning on Tegan. Candice LeRae just getting the snot beat out of her. Baszler thinking that the match was won, and Rhea coming out on top against four other women, essentially 2-on-4. Um, it's great story. It's storytelling at its finest when you could tell it that way. You know, against all odds, the the babyface won. Um, it's memorable for so many reasons. Obviously, Rhea is at the highest peak she could possibly be at right now. But you could look at that match and say, yeah, well, that's kind of where it started. And for that reason, it is my number 8. All right, Kaliko.
If you're talking about against all odds, I'll raise you one with Slammiversary 2019, Tessa Blanchard versus Sammy Callahan,
No.
in which, yes, it's a women's match, sir.
it's it's
As she
intergender.
became, it's it's you didn't specify that rule, sir. I will argue that to the death. You said no repeats.
I said no repeats, but I kind of feel like no men involved in the match is implied
yeah,
when you say
yeah,
women's matches.
yeah. I mean, I asked about China and Jeff Jarrett. I was told no. I
Yes.
also assumed.
Oh,
I
I
also
call. You
assumed.
know what? I'm gonna let the
I,
ladies decide on that one. I'm gonna let.
I also assumed War Games was not up for select.
discussion.
What?
Exact.
Why would War Games be up for discussion? It was a match. I
So
told
is
you.
all of our matches.
Because war games are essentially matches that can't fail at being good.
I disagree with that. We've had blood and guts matches that were the drizzling shits.
Not those are not war games.
Uh,
Those are blood and guts.
apples
Oh
and
gosh.
oranges.
Semantics. Keep
Semantics,
my
semantics. Here we are. So
Well,
I guess I'm gonna have to change my pick
we're only
from
on
Tessa,
our
although I love Tessa.
we're only on our second list, and we're already causing drama with each other.
yeah. We're doing something right.
Huh.
I mean, hey. Well,
Yeah,
then in its place, because I was gonna go with. See, since I couldn't go there, luckily I had a backup, and it was Mickey James versus Trish Stratus at WrestleMania.
there you go.
20. Ah, yeah.
Better.
The
Yes.
Well, everyone is like that's the one thing people get out of it, but the storytelling there was awesome. I mean, the story leading into it was awesome. Because Mickey played that part to the T. It's almost like she has been a scorned lover before. Uh, to the point where everyone also remembers the mistletoe scene, but they just everything about that was just awesome. And I think it was what in Chicago.
Yeah. Um. Broke my
Yes.
horizon.
Well, this was what 22.
Yeah.
Yeah.
22 Chicago. So yeah, that match. I mean, the build up into that match was really good. Um, Trish took the pin. Mickey that catapulted Mickey's career essentially. Um, Beating someone such as Trish, and I'll never forget when um, Jim Ross, the inmates running the asylum, or no, what was the line? What was it? I totally forgot. The crazy one is now the champion. I totally forgot the line. It slipped my mind. But it was a hell of a line by Jim Ross. So good that I damn near forgot it. But yes, Mickey James, Trish Stratus, WrestleMania number 8, since I couldn't go test.
Scooter.
All right. My number 8. Jamie Hayter versus Hikaru Shida. AEW Dynamite Holiday Bash. December 21st, 2022. For the AEW Women's Championship. This represents, to me, kind of the peak of the two's careers. Unfortunately, before they kind of started taking that downward, trend into fizzling out, and I eagerly await the return of both of these women because I'll be the first to admit that I don't necessarily I'm not necessarily as fair as I should be to women's wrestling. And it's not because of any sort of bias or I think that that men can do stuff that they can't. Far from it. It's finding female pro wrestlers that are able to captivate me with more than just tits and ass. And the talent combined of Jamie Hayter and Hikaru Shida, you really could put them anywhere, and they will have a banger. And I can't wait for them to return because once they do, I will not take my eyes off the AEW Women's Division.
And that's why it's your number 8.
That is why it's my number 8.
All right. And that brings me to my number 7. And it was also Kaliko's number 10, and that is Trish Stratus versus Lita from Unforgiven 2006. Not repeating what, you already said, but, it was a retirement match. And, it was all everything was shown in a positive light. And it was, celebrating Trish Stratus's career. and it was the last match in arguably the greatest female rivalry of all time in Trish and Lita. The match didn't disappoint. Um, you could do the whole list with matches from Trish Stratus and Lita, in my opinion. They always had great matches, but there was just something a little bit more special, a little bit more extra, with the Unforgiven 2006. And that's why it is my number 7. Kaliko.
Oof, man, 7. I'm going to go with Natalia Charlotte NXT Takeover.
Was that the first takeover?
This match, no, this wasn't the first takeover. I think it was takeover. Oof, which one was it?
That was wasn't that the finals of the tournament?
Yes, it was the finals of the tournament after the call up, and after Paige's call up, and Charlotte became the champion. This match to me, it showed because at the time, keep in mind, Charlotte was just like beginning, right? This is before we thought she was the overpushed motherfucker that everybody thinks that she is now. But this, it just showed that A, she could hang, and B, she was. This was before she became the Flair. Remember, because it was just Charlotte. It
Yep.
wasn't even Charlotte Flair. It was just Charlotte. And this was match just marked the genesis of one of the greatest women's wrestlers of all time. Hate to say it, but she is. And Natalia brought that out of her. And I've always, and you know how I feel about Natalia. I swear to God, she's like the unsung hero of a women's division because she was the right wrestler at the wrong time. I mean, it just breaks my heart because I feel like her in her prime, she probably would have been like, not saying that she can't go, but when she was in her prime, she probably could have went toe to toe with all of these girls and like pop bangers. But with that being said, yes, number 7, Charlotte versus Natalia NXT Takeover.
And it was the inaugural takeover. It was 2014. For anybody curious.
Because the inaugural one is next on my list.
Okay. Well, then we'll go to Scooter.
Okay. Uh, you're probably going to get sick of hearing these two, but my my next is Trish and Lita, Monday Night Raw,
Hmm.
December 6th, 2004. What is the one thing everybody remembers about that match?
Lita almost folding into an accordion.
That and that
The first women's main event on
bingo.
Raw.
The first the first women's main event on Raw. Um, Trish was playing the heel perfectly here. Um, there's so many statistics to take into account. 50% of Lita's title reigns were ended by Trish. That's almost as much as how Randy Savage's world title reigns were ended by Hulk Hogan. Um, Surprisingly enough, they had actually also faced each other at Fully Loaded 2000 in a 6-person tag. Trish and TNA against Lita and the Hardy Boys. Uh,
Trish with not Impact Total Nonstop Action Wrestling, Test and Albert.
uh, um, this match would also come in the wake of Trish's nose being broken at Survivor Series 2004.
By Lita, if
So
I'm not mistaken.
yes, by Lita. This is the start of undashing Trish Stratus. Um, and again, uh, this was Lita's second title reign, but it was only it was the first one since 2000 because she kept getting injured and injured and injured.
Right.
Uh, there was supposed to be another match between them in No Mercy 2000. That did not happen. It was a no contest. And finally, the last thing to sum this up, Lita never beat Trish in a singles match on pay-per-view.
Ooh.
And this is why the match Trish and Lita from December 2004 is my number 7.
Well, that brings me to my number 6. Before women's wrestling was the way it is as we know it, before there was a women's revolution, before there was even divas at this point, there was the knockouts division. And there was no bigger name in the knockouts division than Gail Kim. Gail Kim versus Taryn Terrell, last knockout standing match from Slammiversary 2013, is my number 6. You know, I don't think anybody thought anything of Taryn Terrell, especially when she was Tiffany in WWE. I don't even think she actually had a match in WWE. And
She was just GM of ECW for a couple hours.
yeah, she goes to TNA, works as a referee, and then gets into a rivalry with Gail Kim that culminates to a last woman standing match. You might sleep on somebody like Taryn Terrell, thinking not much of her or not much of the match, but uh, not much think going into the match, but she killed it, and she had one of the most hard hitting um, female matches like at that time. And I just remember watching it and being shocked of how good of a match Gail Kim and Taryn Terrell had with each other. Um, it makes you wonder, if WWE actually gave her a chance as a wrestler, and how far ahead TNA was when it came to the women's division at that time. To not
Mm-hmm.
even um, put somebody in that position and knowing that they could go, or maybe didn't know that they could go. And then obviously Taryn went on a really good streak after this. But it started with having proving herself against one of the all-time greats in Gail Kim, and that is why it is my number 6. Kaliko.
Mm. Well, I guess sticking with this TNA theme, honestly, I thought you were gonna pick Deanna Purrazzo versus Jordan Ann Grace with the first women knockouts Iron Man match, which to me was a really good match. And everything you said about Gail Kim could be said about Deanna, right? Like
Very
she
true.
was in NXT and kind of an afterthought, and she goes to TNA and literally is carrying TNA on her back, right? So And at that point, when you were thinking TNA, you were thinking Deanna. I mean, with the exception of Tessa when she became the champion, but you were thinking Deanna and Jordan and Grace, and they had a hell of a rivalry too. So, I mean, their Iron Woman match to me stood the test of time in that in their rivalry, and to me, they always had bangers because I guess the style of both of those women. Deanna more of a wrestling mat, and then Jordan Grace is like a powerhouse, basically Big Mama Pump. But yeah, that match to me stood out. And TNA, and that's within the last couple of years.
Is that your number 6?
So yeah, that is number 6. Deanna Purrazzo versus Jordan Grace, Iron Woman's match in TNA Emergence, if I'm not mistaken.
Hold on. It was yeah, I cannot find this match.
What?
Oh, Rebellion, yeah. It was Rebellion.
Rebellion. There you go. Sorry.
Yeah. Alright,
They changed their names all that time.
it's annoying. Scooter.
Okay. My number 6. Io Sky, Candice LeRae, NXT TV, October 28th, 2020, Tables, Ladders, and Scares match.
Mm.
By far the second, if not the first, most interesting thing they've done with Candice in her entire tenure. This was, in the midst of them learning to take advantage of cinematic matches without, having an audience. And NXT really kind of prospered from that format. It's not like, a Raw or SmackDown where, no audience almost equivocates to having no show. And at this time, when Candice was around, that meant Johnny Gargano was around, which meant Indy Hartwell was around, which meant Dexter Lumis was around. And this whole, Dexter Lumis, Indy being thirsty for a bit of Dexy, will always stand out in my mind. Especially, I love wordplay, tables, ladders, and scares. Oh man, that's why that's my number 6.
Not the actual match, just the wordplay of table, ladders, and scales.
Yes.
Yes. Alright. That brings us to my number 5, getting into the nitty gritty. I kind of feel like this match kind of gets lost in the shuffle, and maybe people don't talk about it as much as it should, because it was just kind of on an episode of NXT, not, a paid preview, or PLE as we call them now. It was Asuka versus Nikki Cross, the last woman standing match.
Oh yeah.
At this time, Asuka is the monster that nobody could conquer. Literally the final boss. How long did she go undefeated? Like a couple years?
Uh,
That was like 2, 3 years. That
uh,
was awesome.
seven, 700 and I want to say 45 days.
Yeah, it was damn near 2.5 years.
I mean, however long it was, there was nobody that went up against Asuka at that time that you said, oh, they have a chance of beating Asuka, except Nikki Cross. Nikki Cross was so sporadic, chaotic, you could actually believe that in the madness, in the chaos, that she could actually get the better of Asuka and win the championship. Something that Bailey couldn't do, Ember Moon couldn't do, Bianca, Rhea, Shayna. Nikki Cross came the closest of any of those roles to beating Asuka for the NXT Championship, which seemed damn near impossible at that time. And for you to have that threat for somebody that's, as Roman Reigns would say, great on another level, it shows you the character of Nikki Cross and what they were able to do and put together. And it was great storytelling, and that's why it's number 5. Kaliko?
Mm, I feel like Ember Moon was the closest to Asuka. But with that being said, my number 5 is the match that started all of this, actually. Paige versus Emma NXT Arrival, February 27, 2014, 2 days before my birthday. So that's how I know that that the Charlotte other one was there. That match was so good because at this point Emma is this dainty girl, and I mean y'all know I like Emma. I love Emma. I love her
Yeah.
style, her wrestling style. We ride or die with Emma over here. So that match was literally the catalyst that actually took it seriously, where they actually had time to cook, they had time to tell the story. It was the dainty, happy-go-lucky versus this gothic chick, and they just put magic in the ring. And the fact that Paige at the time used a finisher that was uh, a nod to Bull Nakano at the time. So it was just icing on the cake. It was like two submission specialists going at it. And that match tore the house down at NXT Arrival. As a matter of fact, that match in Sammy and Cesaro basically stole the match from the main event, which was Neville versus Bo Dallas. Damn, I wouldn't have thought I brought that in there. So, number 5, the one that started it all, Paige versus Emma, NXT Arrival 2014.
Scooter?
Okay. My number 5. I was wondering if I should unleash this now, but I decided to. I might as well. Fatal 4-way for the NXT Women's Championship. The Battle of the Horsewomen. Sasha, Bayley, Becky, Charlotte, TakeOver Rival. Uh, at the time, this was. We were just about a year into the WWE network. So, NXT hadn't exactly found its footing, so to speak. but it but the one constant thing you heard was about the work rates of Sasha Banks, Charlotte Flair, Bayley, Becky Lynch, and how they were the horsewomen. Uh, this generation's greatest talents. And even though this is technically a jumping off point for how all their careers will go in so many different directions, and at numerous points they'll intersect back towards each other and then back out, um, to the point where it would probably take somebody with it would probably take somebody like Rain Man to decode how many times they went, they separated and they came back into storyline and competed against each other. But this was the true match to me that really cemented them as the horsewomen. And that is my number 5, the Fatal 4-Way for the NXT Women's Championship. Sasha Banks, Charlotte Flair, Bayley, Becky Lynch, Takeover Rival.
My number 5. No, my number 4. Apologies. My number 4 is Trish Stratus versus Victoria, no holds barred, from Survivor Series 2002. When I first saw this match, I did not know that women could have hardcore matches as hard hitting as this was. Uh,
I was
and,
there.
huh?
I was there.
Well, it's one of those matches that you don't necessarily expect to see at that time because the women weren't necessarily given that platform to have that type of match.
Yeah.
And when they did, they delivered. And it Trish and Victoria was having a great rivalry at the time. Victoria just started her crazy psychotic phase, um, which is arguably her best one. Um, and it encapsulated everything a hardcore match should have in it. Um, Victoria even broke her nose in the match, and it's still a match I go back and look at and enjoy watching. It still holds up in my opinion. Um, and it's arguably one of my favorite women's matches of all time as well, because I just love that pay per view in general. Um, but yeah, it was a great match. It put Victoria over. Um, the one thing we don't say about Trish Stratus as often as maybe we should, she was very giving when it came to putting the other women over. Um, and Victoria got over because she won this match against Trish Stratus. Um, and became one of the greatest, longest reigning active women in WWE. So for all of those reasons, that's my number 4. Kalika.
Mm, my number 4 is Bailey versus Asuka Takeover Dallas. Have you ever seen Rocky 4?
Yes.
Yes.
And you remember when Apollo Creed came out, Living in America?
Mm-hmm.
It was literally, if you were ever gonna do an Americana, it would literally be in Dallas. So you think of this, Dallas, Bailey has this home crowd as the fighting champion, the underdog that finds a way, no matter what, finds a way. And then you get this girl, Asuka, and they have a banger of a match. And it's necessarily the ending because it was the end of the Bailey era at that time. When Asuka put the Asuka lock on Bailey, I was there, and you saw just Bailey pass out, and the match was over. You could hear a pin drop in that stadium. Full disclosure, there was a 9-year-old girl next to me, and she was Bailey hardcore. And when Bailey lost, you just saw her lose her shit. She just started bawling, crying. And it literally felt like Ivan Drago killing Apollo Creed. And because when she won, it was just like, what the fuck? And everyone was like, whoa. And it was just a shocking moment because at this time, we didn't know that Asuka was her, right?
Yeah.
Like, we just saw Asuka like as, oh well, this girl's just gonna do something. We didn't think of the 2-year undefeated streak that was going to come to be, right?
Yeah.
So
510 days, by the way.
There you go.
so that match was big in the sense that it showed a shift in inter preferably Japanese wrestling, Asian wrestlers, in which that girl was taken very seriously, and it was the genesis of an era unlike we never seen before. And she went on to literally hold that belt forever until she went on the roster. They literally had to pry it out of her.
Yeah.
They just basically made her give the belt up because wasn't nobody gonna beat her. So my number 4, Bailey versus Asuka, NXT Takeover Dallas.
Scooter.
Okay. My number 4. My number 4. No. Not that one. No, not that one either.
Don't forget the Burger King question.
Shut up. Dang it. Dang it. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Shut up in your face. Where? Where is it? Where is it? I have it working, and now it is. Butter. Alright. No, not that either. Okay. My God. Okay. Oh, I didn't want to pull this one out yet, but alright. Alright, alright, I am gonna. My number 4. Okay, I'm gonna pronounce this probably wrong, but. Shiori versus Utami Hayashishita, bless you, from Stardom Tokyo Dream Cinderella 2021 Special Edition for the World of Stardom Championship. A crown jewel in a collection of matches that didn't necessarily feature female matches. And this, if you look at women's matches of 2021, five, hold on. We counted 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10. 80% of those matches, of the top 10 women's matches, were from Japan. And this being at the top of the list, this was everything you could want out of not just a women's match, but a wrestling match in general. And the sad part is, if this had taken place in a venue with a bigger audience, there's a good chance this could have been number one. This is one of the few matches in Japanese wrestling history that goes to a double countout after 43 minutes.
Yeah.
The attendance, though, was 1,240 people.
Still more than a usual AEW Dynamite.
Very true. Very true. But ironically enough, this will not be my last Shuri match. There's at least one more in the top 3. So, yeah, that's my number 4.
Alright. And that brings me to my number 3. Bayley versus Sasha Banks. Hell in a Cell 2020. Obviously, Sasha and Bayley has had incredible matches over the years. Even their Brooklyn match inspired literally a generation to actually get into the sport of pro wrestling. But that's why this match was better. It's because that history was behind them. They had the NXT rivalry. They had the friendship. They had the tag team title run. And then it switched. And it made this match so much personal, so much more personal than it was ever in any of those previous matches. And these girls beat the hell out of each other. No regard for each other's bodies. So it tells you, how hard of a hitting match it was. And it doesn't even encapsulate their whole rivalry, but their friendship, everything that was Bayley and Sasha came to a headway in this match. And ironically enough, it would be their last match that they had together. Um, honestly a perfect way to end a perfect rivalry. Very Stone Cold and Rock esque in 29 WrestleMania 19. And honestly, just a 5-star match in general, and that's why it's my number three. Kaliko.
Um, my number three is Sasha Banks versus Becky Lynch versus Charlotte WrestleMania 32.
Hmm.
This match ushered in the end of the Divas title and has ushered in the what we know now as the Women's Championship. And if you were ever going to have a first match for a newly minted championship to have to to take wrestling or take women's wrestling seriously, you pick three banger women to do so. Um, this match was the show stealer at WrestleMania 32, um, in my opinion, especially when you consider that card as a whole. The classic storytelling, them going back to their NXT days. At this time, Sasha and Charlotte was just starting to get into their rivalry, and Becky Lynch was literally the outsider looking in, even though she was in the Four Horsewomen. This was before she became got that cult following that she had now. Um, this match was a masterpiece from beginning to end. It solidified Charlotte once again as a mainstay player because she walked in as Divas champion, walked out as the women's champion, and it just began that run in which she took on the Flair name and became who she is now. So my number three, Charlotte versus Becky Lynch versus Sasha Banks, WrestleMania 32.
Scooter.
All right, my number three. Oh, come on. La Chorosita? No. La Arosita versus Arena Isis, September 16th, 2022. The CMLL 89th anniversary show. Mask versus Mask, 2 out of 3 falls. I'll tell you, if it's one thing Mexicans love, in addition to their, in addition to wrestling in general, it's piling stipulations as if they were free toppings at an ice cream bar. Two out of 3 falls. Mask versus mask. Blindfold. One arm tied behind your back. You're both attached at the ankle.
Coal miner's glove.
Coal miner's glove. The floor. The ring is lava. Also, you don't really tend to hear a lot about luchadoras and female wrestlers in Mexico and in Lucha Libre. And so when they get the chance to really put themselves on the map, they're not going to hold back. They are going to give everything they had. And this was the most one of the most memorable matches in Lucha Libre history because it was actually part of a co-main event uh, involving um, another mask versus mask match to follow in the main event. Um, it was just un, un, unbelievable match. Uh, if you ever get a chance, check it out. That is my number three.
And that brings me to my number two. Gail Kim versus Awesome Kong versus ODB Bound for Glory 2009. You want to know what encapsulates the Knockouts division in one match? What it was like to do women's killing it, having a 5-star match. I could recommend any Gail Kim Awesome Kong match, honestly. They were all phenomenal. But this one specifically was on the biggest stage it could possibly be on. And like I said, if you want to know what TNA Knockouts division was, and this was pretty much at its inception, not too long after. Um, this is the match to go to see. This is what shows off what the Knockouts division is all about, especially at that time. And yeah, just phenomenal wrestling from three badass women that beat the shit out of each other. And that's why it's my number two. Kaliko. Nope. Did we lose Kaliko? He's
Y'all
muted.
didn't lose me. I muted. See
Yep.
that? Those is good, man. We got some good lists. But my number two is Sasha Banks Bailey takeover. If there was one match takeover Brooklyn, there was one match that I was watching over and over and over and over from that takeover Brooklyn. It was that match. It was just classic, and it was a classic story in the beginning of a rivalry in the sense that Sasha Banks was this cocky girl who knew she had the skills, and Bailey, who at the time was just the hugger who everyone perceived to be naive. And for the most part, everyone took advantage of her, and she was just happy to be there. And for some odd reason, this night she turned it on and was able to put the best night of her life in the beginning of an era in which she became the fighters champion, roughly damn near a 10-month reign as women's champion. Um, and it culminated from beating Sasha Banks, someone who's seen her as less than. This was literally and I know I keep with these Rocky references, but this was Rocky Apollo at this point. This was Rocky 1, Rocky Apollo for Bailey. And She showed up. She showed out. Um, this was a classic banger. The reverse Hanakarana from the top rope to end the match was awesome. And what made it more significant was that the curtain call that happened between all four. Who would have knew that out of all four of them, that all four would generally be pillars for the company? When you think about it, they were literally the foundation for what now women are now coming into the WWE. So that match to me holds a significant place, and yeah, can't say enough about it. Bailey versus Sasha Banks, Takeover Brooklyn, number 2.
Scooter?
Funny enough, my number 2 is Bailey versus Sasha Banks Iron Woman match for the NXT Women's Championship. Takeover Respect. For so many reasons, this match deserves to be on this list. First of all, it's an Iron Woman match. That was trailblazing to begin with, and the even though it was only a half hour, as most of the Iron Person matches these days will be, it was still a story told in almost every decision. Sasha went up 1-0. Then Bailey came right back and made it even. Sasha got a count out, 2-1 for her. Bailey pins Sasha with a runner. It's 2-2, and now we're basically at a, not necessarily a standstill, but almost like a Mexican standoff that just keeps on going. Sasha Banks goes into the bank statement. Banks brings Bailey into the middle of the ring. Bailey attempts to apply the same submission, but Banks prevented it and reapplied the submission. She escapes, grabbing Banks' injured hand and slamming it onto the mat. Banks attempts the bank statement again, only for the force to be countered, and Banks ends up submitting to a modified armbar with seconds remaining in the match. And that is how you tell a story in a match. That is how you put an exclamation point on a feud. And that is my number 2.
The best part of that match was when Sasha made Izzy cry. And fun
Yes.
fact, Izzy's now a pro wrestler, that was the funniest thing ever. I do go lie to you. I died laughing when that happened.
She stole her little headband.
Stole her headband and just was like throwing it.
Yeah,
Well, Izzy deserved it.
she did.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. We can agree on that.
Yeah.
Do we got any honorable mentions? Because I feel like, well,
Yeah.
not even feel. I think that there was, because that was in my honorable mentions. The Iron Woman's match, the triple threat at 35 was definitely in there. Ember Moon, Shayna Baszler, Nikki Cross.
Yeah.
It's a lot of Shayna Baszler, Bianca Belair, Takeover Finish. There are some bangers.
Thunder Rosa, Britt Baker,
Thunder Brosa, Britt Baker.
the Lights
Yeah.
Out match.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hair versus Hair, Tom Nakano, Julia.
Mm,
Yeah, Evolution, Becky and Charlotte, last woman
Becky,
standing.
Charlotte,
yes.
last woman standing. Yep.
That almost made it onto my list. I could honestly say I could have done this whole list with just Becky Lynch matches. Especially with the last year of matches she's had. You know, anything she did with Bianca Belair. Um, I could have
Yeah. But,
definitely honorable mention Shayna Baszler versus Kairi Sane. All of their
oh,
matches were
yeah.
excellent. I unfortunately did not have time to rewatch any of them to specifically pick one for this, but it is worth mentioning that they had a banger of a rivalry, and Shayna made Kyrie so much bigger than she was at that time.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, and I mean, like you said, there's so many honorable mentions that can be mentioned, but
But there
but
can only be one number one.
and my number one is Becky Lynch versus Sasha Banks. Takeover Unstoppable 2015.
Mm,
Um, this match had so much story to it. Sasha and Becky having the frenemy rivalry. Sasha trying to prove that she's a legitimate champion. Becky trying to prove that she can be a champion. At that time when this match came out, like I said with the Trish Stratus Victoria match, I didn't know women could have this good of a match. A Benoit Angle style match. Um, I'm trying not to be, sexist in that statement, but I just wasn't exposed to matches as good as this one at that time. Maybe I wasn't looking in the right places, but this really captured my imagination to say, wow, these girls could go. Not to mention, this was the first time I ever actually watched NXT to begin with. Uh, I watched, I turned it on specifically for Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens,
Kevin
and
Owens, yeah, that was the
yeah,
main event.
this match outshined them, and I came out knowing more about Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks than I knew about Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Because I knew who they were before, Kevin Steen and
Ring of
El
Honor and
Generico.
El
Um,
Generico.
so yeah, when you could say that you had a better match than Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn on the same card, you're doing something fucking right. And what going back and watching that match, you can see that spark in Becky Lynch, where she went from NXT rookie to having that spark that would eventually become the man herself. Um, and for that reason, it is my number one match of all time. All right, Kaliko.
Um, man, my number one match, you had to been there, and you had to have felt the electricity in this particular match, and it was the first WrestleMania women's main event match post pandemic with two African American women main eventing that night. And I'm gonna say something real quick. I remember when I said night one was nigga night. Yeah, that was that night. So yeah, it was my number one. Bianca Belair versus Sasha Banks, WrestleMania 30. I want to say 37, 36, night
37.
one,
37.
whatever, 37. I don't know, because 36 kind of don't count, but whatever. WrestleMania 37, night one, in which they tore the motherfucking house down. At this time, when you looking back at that match, Bianca was just getting her wings set, but then again, she was also coming up short because, as I said, she's lost. She was so close in NXT, losing to Shayna Baszler and some close matches at NXT Phoenix, and in her only shot. And I've seen her wrestle on the road against Shayna, and it comes oh so close to be oh so far. But this one night, she got the shot that she was looking for, and to have two African American women main event a WrestleMania in night one, in which Bianca won the Royal Rumble, challenged Sasha Banks. That match, from start to finish, was bananas. And to put it in context, keep in mind, back from the pandemic, or first WrestleMania, post pandemic, everyone can kind of be together in a sense.
Yeah.
And they're looking at this as the main event, and the match did not disappoint at all. This match was all over ESPN. That tells you that this match did something right. Don't get me wrong, Charlotte, Becky, and Ronda killed it the next year, but this match was the real main event, first main event for WrestleMania and for women. Um, this match put Bianca in a whole new stratosphere as a superstar. It solidified Sasha Banks as Miss WrestleMania. Um, and it's very rare that you see a match where it comes out as a win-win, and that's what it seems. That's what it seemed like here, as in everyone won. Um, so yeah, this match, number one, Bianca Belair versus Sasha Banks, first women's main event, WrestleMania 37, Tampa Bay.
Beautiful.
Alright, my number one match. It is Stardom Dream Queendom 2022. Julia defeats Shuri for the World of Stardom Championship. This was about as great as you could get, and it really only went up from there in terms of Japanese women's wrestling, because again, Stardom would control most of the top tens from 2022 onward, and usually the names you would find there are Julia, Shuri, Utami Hayashisa, Tam Nakano, I should say, Mirai, and Micah and Suzuki as well. Those are so much talent, giving it their all, and they're not performing in sold out arenas. You know, they're maybe they have 1,000 people, maybe 3,000 people at the most in the audience. They're not doing it to satisfy an arena full of people. They're doing it to satisfy all the eyes that are looking at them, because there's nowhere else to look. They make the wrestling the focal point in Stardom, and I'm kind of miffed that it really took me this long to get into Stardom, but there is so much to check out in terms of Stardom, and when you start with Julia and Shuri, you will not be disappointed. I will give one final mention to to Battle in the Valley, Mercedes Moné and Kyrie, just for the heck of it. But my number one, Julia Shuri.
Okay. And our lists are done. The one thing that really surprised me this time around, not a lot of doubles. I think only me and Kaliko had one that was similar. Does that shock you that we would, for the first time, we weren't necessarily all on the same page?
Well, I mean, doubles for you might not be doubles for us. Like one one match between Charlotte and Sasha isn't every match between Charlotte and Sasha.
No, what I mean is
Mm.
you and we didn't share matches. Like the only match that me and Kaliko agreed on was Tristan Lita Unforgiven.
Tristan Lita.
So usually, last time we did this, there was a little bit
It'd be
more.
some lap over.
Yeah, lap over. There you go. So
Well,
yeah,
I told you I was going back in the time machine for this one.
yes, you did. Any matches that stick out to you from me or Kaliko that surprised you?
I'm kind of surprised you guys didn't have more Japanese wrestling on there.
Because we do more New Japan, and there isn't a there is no women wrestling on New Japan.
Got it.
Yeah,
Got it. You're sexist.
you're right. I'm a sexist SOB. Um, yep, sexist SOB. I remember when the Four Horsemen first came out. That was my mission to get all four of their signatures. And in my encyclopedia, I have on the very first page in the book, because they weren't in it yet, I have all of their signatures together.
I'm still waiting.
I had to corral it one by one, but god damn it,
Still waiting on Becky and Bailey. Honestly, I've seen Sasha and Charlotte.
Bailey was the one that was the hardest to get.
Yeah,
Man, I had to get her on. I got Bailey on a military base in Coronado.
damn.
Do you know how random that is? That's fucking random. When I say that was random as shit, and it was the base I was working on at the time. And everybody named Mama knew I was a wrestling fan, so it was like, "We know where you at." Like, you damn right. Don't even bother, fam.
like I said, I could have did this. I tried to on my side of things. I tried to be as diverse as I could, um, and kind of go on the opposite ends of the spectrum. I've never been the one to go with, the match that everybody talks about. I'm always kind of, well, this one is low key a great match that nobody talks about. Um,
Oh yeah.
like I said, I could have did this whole list with Becky Lynch matches from the last year, but I
I
didn't
mean, I could
necessarily.
have did it all with Bailey matches because 2020 Bailey was a fucking problem.
You're not wrong about that. Um, but it kind of just honestly was just matches that were memorable in my mind. Just that I remember watching, as a kid, and just saying, yeah, this is good shit. And
See, that's where I was stuck. I was stuck in the sense of because a lot of the women matches that I vividly remembered, I was there. So I was like, shit, should I just deal with the matches where I was there and I actually could see the reaction from the faces of the crowd and how they were into it? Because, prime example, um, a match that no one really thinks about, which is Charlotte versus Ronda Rousey Survivor Series. That match was really good.
it was.
It just went when Charlotte got DQ'd and all that other shit went off. It just took the story out of it because
Oh, the crowd was
uh,
popping when she got disqualified. We absolutely
bro,
loved that shit.
yeah, they were loving that shit. That's what I'm saying. Like they were, bro. It was you were there. It was like
Yeah,
holy shit, there. And she's from Huntington Beach, so I'm like, damn, they don't like her that much. God damn. Like, what did she do? It was almost like that. Leave Brittany alone.
Chris Crocker.
That's what it felt like. It was like, leave Brittany alone. Leave Rhonda alone. I mean, shit.
and with that,
I'll never forget that shit.
we shall conclude our coverage of our top 10 list for this month. Um, Thank you for listening. If you like what we're doing, please like, subscribe, comment, vote on YouTube and Castbox. This was sponsored by Rogue Energy and Fair One Coffee. Join us this Tuesday and interview this Tuesday and Wednesday as we have interviews lined up. You do not want to miss them. And follow the show at Wrestling with E, both on X, Thread, and Instagram for information on who we're interviewing, when we're interviewing them, links to those interviews, and so much more. You can follow me personally at JamesShay993. Where can we find Kaliko?
You can see us, like, hopefully trying to stay on the pulse of society at I Am Kaliko. See, look, we're not sexist. We talked about women during Women's International History Month, so we can't be that bad, right?
We could name 10
Right?
women's matches. Yay!
Hey, bro, that's 10 more than some can. I'm just telling. Progress over perfection, sir. Like,
And Scooter Dust.
As always, find me on X at Scooter Dust. The profile pick contest is still running. If you can identify what is in my X profile pick, you will win a free year of Peacock.
For Kaliko Yachts and Scooter Dust, I'm James J, and this has been Wrestling with Entertainment.
Hey, folks, this is the Colossal Mike Law, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment. Enjoy the show, support these guys. We appreciate it very much. We'll see you at ringside.